Welcome back to The Gold and the Grit. I'm your host, Ann Christian. And today I have a very special guest on. Her name is Heidi Stout, and she is one of my very close friends. Heidi is someone I deeply admire for her bold faith, grit, and unwavering compassion. She's a devoted mom to 4 boys, a passionate bow hunter, and the founder of Encounter Outdoors and the Light Ranch. Through the Encounter Outdoors, Heidi creates a space for people to step away from the noise of life and encounter God through his creation, whether it's hunting, hiking, or time spent with a bow in her hand. Her heart for healing also led her to launch the Light Ranch, a nonprofit dedicated to helping individuals who've walked through trauma, especially survivors of human trafficking, find restoration, identity, and hope through the outdoors and the love of Jesus. Heidi leads with courage and conviction, and her life is a beautiful example of what it looks like to let God use your story for a greater purpose. Hi, Heidi.
Hi.
Thank you for being here.
I am so honored and humbled that you even had me on, so I appreciate you so much.
Of course. For those that don't know, I've known Heidi, I guess, for a little bit over a year now. Mm-hmm. And she had me on her podcast as well, which was really sweet. And we had a great conversation there. And I thought, now it's my turn to ask the questions, and it's my turn to hear more from you than myself. So here we are. Before we get into it, is there anything else you'd like to add to that list or share about yourself?
You know, it's hard to listen to that because I'm like, who are you talking about? Are you talking about me? I mean, those words just, I feel so honored by what you said. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I think you encompassed everything that I've been spending the last few years trying to build and create. And, you know, at the root of it, I am a mom. So that is like my number one priority every single day. But no, I think you got it all. And I'm in the hot seat now, so.
That's right, it's your turn.
Try not to sweat here.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning. What lit the fire in your heart to start the Encounter Outdoors and eventually the Light Ranch?
Yeah, I mean, that is a probably 6-year story, in all honesty. The Encounter Outdoor, they started 2 totally different ideas, right, and 2 different purposes. Encounter Outdoor kind of just started because I became divorced about 6 years ago, mm-hmm. and my son was wanting to learn to hunt, and we love to do things outdoors. And so I was like, you know what, I'm gonna kind of do a page just kind of devoted to like our encounters outside, our encounters outdoors. That's kind of where the name came from. And I'll blog a little bit, and not that I expected anyone to read it or follow my page, but it was kind of just, I use Instagram kind of as like my photo album, right? I don't print photo albums. I'm horrible at that. So that's kind of my photo album. So I'm like, I'll just track it. Maybe some days my boys will want to read it and, have that. And so I did that. Kind of did it here and there, and it kind of just dropped down like a lot of things do that we start, right? And mm-hmm. Had maybe a couple hundred people that followed, definitely my mom, some family.
Seeing what you're up to.
Yeah. Mom always number one supporter. And then I kind of started going through a hard season of life, and everything kind of past trauma and things came to a head. Yeah. And found myself in an area of life that I had never been in before, battling depression and, still trying to show up as a mom and having things go on with me that I really just didn't quite understand. And, then it came to a point where my 2 options were, I'm ready to not go on anymore in life, or I'm going to find out what's going on and get help. And so thankfully, by God's grace, I decided I'm going to get help. And it was in that season that God said, through everything that you've been through, you are going to use your story for purpose. And at that point, I didn't know necessarily what that was going to look like. I didn't know. I just knew, what, I want to help people that have been through trauma like I have. Trafficking had always been on my heart because I volunteered for an organization at that time, I want to say over 10 years prior. And then over the last year, the Light Ranch came to be and really figured out that, I want to have a place of healing and restoration and really want to spend the rest of my days on this earth helping others find their purpose and forgiveness and grace in how God designed them to be.
It's beautiful. And
there's the short answer, which still felt really long.
No, that was perfect. And you explained that beautifully. So that was a great way to say it. So yeah, I guess both of those missions feel really purposeful. Can you share like the personal side or experience that shaped these visions, or only if you feel comfortable?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Back in college, I think what really kind of started realizing where I was at with the depression is I was having a lot of moments where I hadn't slept in like 4 months. I think this is where like it kind of, without going into everything that kind of led up to that, and I was like, I had not slept. I was having, every time I did sleep, I was having extreme nightmares. I was reliving a rape I had in college. And I never really dealt with that. There was a lot when that happened. I know, like, I put myself in that situation. I never told anyone about it. I had just my own shame with it, that it was my fault. I was around people I knew. I decided to take one drink. That's all I had at the event. And that was my fault for taking that. Little did I know that there was other things in there at that time.
Right.
And so I just kind of buried it and didn't deal with it. But it was always there in pieces of my life and would come up. And so with other events going on in my life, just things were going on, and I was like, I can't live like this. And so, I was at a point where I have a local ski hill that I go to with my kids, and I was like, there's a place that I love, like that's going to be my spot. And I just, like, I can't do this anymore. And I didn't want to talk about it. I didn't want to hash out. To me, a lot of it I saw was, I'm the problem. Like, just get over it. Like, you just need to snap out of it. Like, I'm kind of always just been, I do what needs to be done. And I met some individuals at that ski hill, people I didn't know, that just kind of embraced me, like these strangers. And there's a song by Lauren Daigle called Rescue, and in there it says, I will send an army to rescue you. And I remember one night sobbing and feeling like he sent an army of people that didn't even know they were rescuing me. And within that, I says, all right, I'm going to try a therapist. I had tried in the past, but I had never really dove into that situation. And so I started seeing her, and I always tell people, like, if you find it, like, I've had bad experiences with therapists, and I think they're great for everyone. And I would say, if you find one that's not good, go to another one.
Yeah, move on.
Yeah, keep trying to find one. And so within that journey with her, I decided to write a letter. I couldn't even remember this guy's name. And I wrote a letter, and I took it up to that same spot on the mountain, and we were going to burn the letter. And it was in those moments that I said, I'm taking my power back. Everything that not only did they take something from me that I didn't want to willingly give, is they took so much of my energy and my time and just my soul, and I didn't want them to have those pieces. Those were not theirs anymore. And so I wrote that letter in that same spot. And I remember after I finished the letter, I laid back in the snow, and it was a cloudy day, and it sounds so cheesy, but like the clouds parted and the sun kind of came shining through on me, and I just like could very blatantly hear God say, like, this is where you take this and use it for my glory, and you're going to help others find their power and gain their power back. And then that's kind of the root of to like everything and where it all changed for me. And once I surrendered that, like, my life has not been the same since that moment.
Wow. Thank you for being vulnerable to share that. That is, not only just powerful, but so special to you and your story, and it makes what you're doing next so purposeful. And I think we've talked about this some. So many women have experienced things like that they never talk about, whether it's because of shame, embarrassment, feeling like they could just blame themselves, or the idea of staying in victim mentality, and they don't want people to view them as a victim of like, oh, that's, that's just like, she wants attention, or, and honestly, it's kept me from sharing a lot of parts of my story, is that fear, but I think it's so brave to be able to openly say it, talk about it, and that is even now you taking your power back from that experience that was so wrongfully taken from you. And I'm so sorry that you walked through that, and I'm amazed and loved hearing that you got to go back to that same place with that letter. That's extremely powerful.
It's still one of my favorite spots, but it has a different purpose now. But I totally agree. Like, once I started sharing what had happened to me, like the number of women that have trusted me with their story, that have told me what's happened to them, like, it's way more prevalent than I would have ever guessed, which is heartbreaking in itself. But there is something very powerful in speaking your truth and speaking and sharing that vulnerability. Like, it is really hard and it is scary. Like, I remember when I decided to share the story, I sat in the upstairs of my barn, this just old rickety barn, and I recorded that story, and it was like 15, 17 minutes, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna put it on YouTube. And I have 4 boys, and they had some girls that were friends over, and I asked the girls, I said, would you be willing to listen to this? This was my very first audience, and I was like, who knows what they're gonna think? But they're like, sure. I'm like, okay, I don't like to hear my own voice, so I'm not going to sit and listen with you. So they all jumped on my bed, and I left them with my phone to watch. And as soon as they were done, I remember them coming out and hugging me, and they were just like, wow, like, I can't believe, thank you for sharing. And I had one text me later and says, that really, really resonated with me. And it was kind of in that moment that I was like, okay, I'm doing the right thing. Not only just for like other women, but, teen girls that, I was young. I was, I can't remember the age, either 19 or 20 when it happened. And you're trying to find yourself. There's just so much that you don't know what to, like, you're processing adult things when I know how my 19-year-old, there's so much you have to learn. And, I told myself, if I help one girl to go on, to make it through, then, like, I'm doing the right thing.
That's right.
And so it was in that I'm like, it's going to be okay. Yeah. It's going to be okay. Yeah. You may get judgment, but, to me, that doesn't necessarily matter. This is what I feel God has called me to do, and I'm going to continue to follow that path. And at the root of it, He's got me. And as long as I'm following what He has planned for me, that's all that matters.
Amen. That's exactly right. Fear of man is a snare. I say that all the time, but it is. So kind of along those lines, you are obviously someone who walks boldly in your faith. Has there been a moment, and I kind of already know a little bit that there has been, but I'm going to ask you, has there been a moment, whether recently or in the past, where God has asked you to say yes before it made sense?
Every day. Yeah, I mean, I think often, like, what we see on social, or even just sitting here talking about it, like, or when I don't always walk boldly. We come across like that, but deep down inside, the moments at home alone, like, there's fears. There's definite fears. And I feel like every step of this way, I kind of have the end in mind, but this whole path there, I've just been, I don't know what I'm supposed to do here. And so I think where things really started to change for me, even when I met you, and I just say yes. Like, if things come into my lap, obviously within reason and make sense and align with, my values, but, like, if things, just say yes, no matter how scared I am. And when I did the podcast and did that, it's like something came up, I'm like, okay, we're just going to go for it. And I've gotten to where in life, I'm also getting older, that if God wants it to happen, it'll happen. If He doesn't, it's a closed door, and there's a reason that it's closing. So I think, like, even when I'm questioning myself, my capabilities, because I do all the time, there's a lot coming up that I'm like, I don't know that I'm qualified for this. But I'm just like, you know what? I'm just going to say yes. And, I think throughout my career and my life, like, you never are going to feel 100% ready in the things you do, but that's what molds you and helps you grow and become better at whatever it is you're trying to do. Is you're going to have the failures and the things that are not going to go as planned, but it's all part of that journey. And I'm really just trusting God that each step that he'll lead that, and that yes will be for him, and if that's what he wants, it will, and if not, it'll pivot. We just pivot.
That's right. Just roll with it, baby.
Yes.
It'll buff. Ellie always says that's going to be her LLC one day. I'm like,
I like that.
It does buff. Thank you for sharing that. It's beautiful, very wise. We've kind of already spoken on some of the biggest challenges you've walked through, but are there any other moments that you can think of or you'd like to share about that you've walked through something extremely hard, and how has God brought you through that moment? It could be something small, big, just challenging.
I mean, there's so many things. I think being a single mom, that's constantly challenging, right? Mm-hmm. You have not necessarily anyone to lean on to get things done. You've got to just figure it out, whether it's financial struggles, anything that comes up, you just kind of have to lean on God. I think learning to do archery, and it can even be simple things like that. Like, there's just times you want to give up on yourself and be like, I don't know how to do this. But I think for some of the big ones, it's just anytime you're stepping out on a dream, right? This is a dream for me. This is what I feel my purpose is there's going to be challenges. Sure. And that's always going to fluctuate in the level of that challenge. But I think you really have to, I'm very big proponent on who you surround yourself with and what you fill your mind with, right? God talks a lot in Scripture about taking our thoughts captive. And I am working very, very hard on that. It's so difficult. And Joyce Meyers is one of my favorite authors and speakers. And so her book, The Battlefield of the Mind, is really good. Jenny Allen has a really good book about our thoughts.
Get out of your head.
Get out of your head, yes, thank you. I always forget the name of it for whatever reason.
I need to reread that, but it's so good.
It is so good, and there's so much truth in it. And I think even if you're not a person of faith, there's just truth in that. And I remember when I was going through that really hard season, I took myself outside every day. I took time off work. I said, I've got to fix myself. Took a leave, and I said, I have to get where I feel safe. I was having anxiety and all this. So I took myself to the ski hill just about every day for 3 months straight, even if it was just for an hour, because it was the one place I felt safe. But every day on the way up to the hill, I'd listen to Eddie Pinero, Your World Within, and his podcast, and just these positive thoughts, fill your mind with positivity, fill your mind with Scripture, fill your mind with truth, because if you fill your mind with the negative or the people that are not necessarily trying to better themselves, you're going to stay in that place, or you're going to talk yourself out of it. Because there's plenty of times I've procrastinated, and really what the root is I've had negative talk in my head. Yep. I've told myself I'm not capable, I'm not going to make it, I'm not going to advance, why am I doing this? Every thought you can think of.
Sure.
And now I'm in a place just push through and just do it. And I had one conversation I had been pushing off. This was probably end of last year. And I was like, why are you going to call? You're not going to, there was somebody I had wanted to reach out to that's doing not exactly, but they're in the trafficking industry. Mm-hmm. They're working with people. And I was like, why are you going? You're not going to get a hold of anyone. So I just kept putting it off. And finally one day I was like, nope, you're calling right now. And I called, and person answered, and he said his name, and I'm like, that's the name of the guy I was calling. But I was calling a general number, so thought I was front desk. And I just kind of said, word vomited, this is me, this is what I'm doing. And, you know, I used to volunteer with you guys over 10 years ago. And, you know, I want to come down and meet with you guys. And so we were on the phone for about an hour. And about halfway through, he's like, and I realized it was the main head person. He's like, how did you get my number? And I'm like, I just called the general number. And he's like, huh. And I was like, okay, God. And like a lot transpired and refreshed both of us. It was a conversation that we both needed in that moment.
Sure.
And it just reminded me, like, Heidi, push through those moments where you're doubting yourself and just trust. And you really have to also be okay with looking foolish. I'm really good at it. But it's okay if you're genuine and you're authentic. People embrace that as opposed to trying to be fake and pretend you're something that you're not. But if you're just kind of vulnerable in your conversations, I don't know what I'm doing, this is what I'm wanting to do. If they're good people, they will surround you and help you propel yourself forward too.
And almost like appreciate and respect that more.
So much more.
You and I were listening to something earlier, and they were saying, it was Christine Kane and Lisa Harper, I think, and they were saying if they could go back to their selves in their 20s and 30s, they would tell themselves, you don't have to have it all together. In fact, people really appreciate when you don't, and you are open and honest about that. And yeah, because I think the downside of social media is we look at people's lives from the outside and they look perfect. And I'm the first one to say it, Instagram is fake, and I'm a part of that. 100%. I think we all are, but it's fake, it's filtered, it's cultivated to be exactly what you want people to see. And that's not real life. It's not the messy moments where you're crying by yourself in your room at 2 a.m. It's not the messy moments where you just got in a big fight and your emotions are through the roof, or you get a couple pimples and you look bad, or, you know, it's like that's real life. And trying to figure out finances, or trying to figure out, Lord, when am I going to get married and have kids? And, you know, all of these things that I think a lot of us deal with, or processing past trauma. That's not social media. And I think it's so, I don't know, real and really nice to know, like, hey, people have stuff going on and I'm not the only one that's struggling. And something you said earlier about taking your thoughts captive, I think especially today's generation where we can just open our phones and distract ourselves, it's almost scary for us to be alone in silence. And that is why I like hunting, especially in remote areas that don't have service, because you're forcing yourself, and yeah, you're distracted with hunting, but most of the time you're just sitting there waiting to hear something or see something or for something to walk out. So it's, hunting is nice because it forces you in that atmosphere, and it forces you to get alone with your own thoughts and face this stuff that is really sometimes easier to not think about. But I think that's the big thing when you have negative self-talk and you are alone with yourself, to take your thoughts captive.
Yeah.
That's the difference.
I would completely agree. And before, like, the light ranch, and I mean, because it was like 2020 when I picked up my very first bow, and my son wanted to learn. But then 2021, I started, you know, they become teenagers, they get busier. So I started hunting alone, and now that's mostly what I do. But that's where I've learned the most about myself is, because your phone's off. I will spend 14 hours out there by myself having some crazy conversations. Now I'll take like a book, and I may jot down thoughts or ideas.
Wait, have you ever hallucinated while hunting?
I don't know.
Like, have you ever thought you saw an animal or heard something that you didn't?
Oh, all the time. I
had that happen it was like insanely real. And some part of me still thinks it might have been real, but then it wasn't, because I saw the other guys I was hunting with, and they were like, no, we've been napping 80 yards that way. Like, you did not see me. And I'm like, wow, day 5, I'm hallucinating that there's an elk. I had drawn my bow at one point. So I'm like, thank God I didn't try to shoot.
I don't know that I've had that extreme.
And I was completely sober-minded. There was nothing going on. I had nothing in my system to make me do that. I was sleeping just great. Like, I'm like, why did that happen? Like a mirage in the desert, except it's elk.
I think my worst is I'll get out there so early by 9 o'clock. I have passed out.
You want to nap.
And then I've woken up full, like those loud snores. And I'm like, whatever was nearby is no longer, so I need to move spots.
They definitely know you're there.
Yeah, they
You're
know
not
I'm
hiding
here.
anything.
And I'm like,
That
who
is so
knows what's
funny.
come up near me while I've been just completely passed out. But,
Oh my
you know,
gosh.
but those are the moments that, you know, people talk about trying to find strength and when you push through hard things. And that's why I love learning new skills and why I've loved archery is because when you push yourself to embrace something new and say, you know what, I'm going to try and learn this skill, you start to become a big believer in yourself. And like every little step makes you feel more empowered. And you're like, okay, if I can handle this, if I can handle walking in at 3 a.m. in the pitch dark with the eyeballs
By yourself.
looking at me by myself, okay, I can handle
This thing at work or
this
this other
my
conflicts.
kid going through, you know, this really difficult time or, you know, those type of things. Like the more hard things that you push through, like I always love the quote that says like you've made it through 100% of your hardest days because you have. And I also like perspective too. Like when I hear people's stories now, you know, sometimes I'm like, what do I have to talk about? Like it has not been that hard,
A
but
lot to talk about.
I love hearing people's stories because it gives perspective. Like
Yeah.
in the grand scheme of life, you know, when you start hearing survivor stories about trafficking and, you know, girls being held in dog kennels and, you know, those type of things, I'm like, what do I have to complain about? And I think we all, you know, in some point, like, and I try to teach my boys that, like, yeah, because it is easy to get our phone out and just distract ourselves. And I'm
Scroll.
like, you know, for majority of us in the U.S., like, we're pretty blessed. And we have so many opportunities at our fingertips. It's what we decide to do with them. But we just all need that. And that's why I think it's super important. Like if you're able to go volunteer at a homeless shelter or anything, like just remind yourself how to be grateful for what you have.
Right.
And that really can help change those difficult moments. Like, and that's what I've learned through, I've had nothing in my life. I didn't grow up with much. And then, you know, I've done well, and then you know, it comes and goes, and especially money. I think that a lot of us, that's the root of a lot of our stresses. It comes and goes, and it always works out. Like it does. It does suck in those moments, but
Yeah.
you always make it through.
That's right. So good. Love this. I could talk to you for 95 million hours.
Yeah, I've got time.
Also, a short break for our sponsor. I'm just kidding. Hey, Olipop, though, for real, you should sponsor us because I drink like 7 a day. Maybe not that many. Maybe like 2 a day.
They're really good. It's my first time.
I love
having
this
them.
one. The vintage cola. Cherry cola is really good too.
Oh.
They have a new one out. It's like Mountain Dew, but it's not. It's like a
I didn't
different
even know
name.
that they existed.
I
So
love
I'm
them.
learning new things.
They're like, yeah, just healthy soda. Makes you feel like better about drinking it. You're not
Yeah.
like drinking a soda. Let's go. Okay. So obviously we both love hunting. It's how we met. It's how we connected. Yeah, I feel like there's a stigma around female hunters because I think sometimes people that are in the industry try to gain popularity the wrong ways. But what I respect about you is that you don't. You're not doing that for any other reason than you just love the outdoors. And yeah, so why do you think, especially with Encounter and the Light Ranch, that the outdoors is such a fertile ground for encountering God or healing, all the above?
Yeah, like, you know, I think it, like we were saying, it's an easy way to put away our distractions, right? You're really just kind of connecting with yourself and what God created when you're out there and really embrace the beauty. Like the world is like, you can find the cutest little bug on the ground. Like I'm always just like fascinated. The world is so beautiful. They're like nature and animals, like it's just so like it takes my breath away every time, you know. And the encounters that you have when you're out hunting, like you can't pay for experiences like that.
Sure can't.
You know, this last year, I mean, the moose that was grunting and came up 30 yards and we're just staring at each other. I'm like, gosh, I wish I had a moose tag, but like I'm just going to embrace this experience. And enjoy
Well, I guess
it.
you can pay for it if you're like a guided
Yeah,
hunter.
yeah. Well,
but
but even still, you don't know what the animal's going to do and things
Yeah.
like that. But
Yeah.
you know, it's the moments where I'm alone and it's just me and that animal, or I've got to rely on my own skills. But I think there's also something to say. There's so much in the Bible about, you know, when Jesus went away in solitude to pray. You know, Moses, you know, being off by himself. There's something about, I mean, I think that's how he created us to be, right? To spend some time. You know, it's fun to hunt with people, but there is really something about just being by yourself in nature. And you got to talk with the things that are going on in your mind, right? They're going to come up. And that is a really great time to kind of work through your thoughts. And just find some peace. Like, and that's why I like archery so much. Like, it's, you know, there's not guns going off. It's not as many hunters. Like
it's warm.
It is. There's just something very organic about it to me. And I think the same about fly fishing. Like, there's just something very natural about it and peaceful. And, you know, it's just, for me, it's where I really hear his voice. And
It's beautiful.
you know, same on the ski hill on that mountain. Like, it was just me and the mountain and the snow. Like, there's just a way to find calm in the crazy, right? The world is so crazy when you're in the city, traffic, all the things. Like, I went down to Phoenix to visit with that organization, and I'm like, no wonder, and I grew up in Phoenix, but I'm like, no wonder everybody wants to escape. Like, this is crazy. Like, the city life is just so busy with distraction. Not only
lot.
like your phone and TV, but just everything around you. And I'm like, we're not built for this.
No.
We're really not. We're built for community, and we are built to connect with the earth.
Be outside.
And be outside. Like, and that's why.
Touch dirt, touch grass.
Yeah.
Is that what they say?
Touch grass.
Touch
yeah.
grass.
I tell my boys that every now and then when they're playing too much video games. I'm like, you need to touch grass. And I'm like, Mom, don't use that phrase. And I'm like,
Oh yeah, it's probably something else.
I think I'm cool enough, but no, they don't. No matter how cool, you know, the cool things that happen to you, like being on social media, I'm like, oh, they're like, yeah, Mom, you're not cool.
Still not cool to us,
Yeah,
Mom.
they keep me humble.
I think you're cool. You can tell them I said that.
Thank you. But that's why, you know, when I wanted and created the ranch is because I feel like there's a few pillars that I feel that are critical to our well-being and also how God designed us to be, and community is one. I think, you know, when we go through hard times anymore, like, we are driving ourselves to isolation, right?
So
the
true.
more we create and the more technology advances, and hey, you don't have to drive your car, you don't have to do all hey, they can drop your groceries off. We are isolating ourselves more and more. Not that I don't use some of those conveniences.
Right. Do online church. It's the same.
Yeah.
Not the same.
None of it is the same.
Get it, like, from time to time if you need to, but it's not the same.
It's not the same, and that's not how we're designed.
Nope.
And so, you know, when you think about mental health and those things struggling even more, and suicide going up and those type of things, is because we're pulling ourselves away from how we were originally designed.
Wow.
And I think community and the outdoors are critical, and that's, you know, as the ranch is built and these girls are coming in, that's why I want both of those things to be critical pieces of everything that we're doing.
So good. Yeah, gosh. We have a lot of the same callings in our lives, and
We do.
I'm not going to talk about it right now because obviously that's probably down the line for me a little bit, but that'd be really cool if somehow they were woven together for us, the different purposes.
I think they will be in some capacity.
Yeah, I think so too. We'll see what God does. What would you say to a woman or any person who feels too broken to be used by God? It doesn't have to be a woman, anybody.
That's a really, I can't say there's just one blanket answer for that, right? But I don't feel that anyone is too broken. And really, I think even saying that phrase is words from the devil, right? I feel like those are negative self-talk that are just lies that we feed ourselves. I love inspirational books and movies, and that's where you come to hearing people's stories. And I guarantee you there's one worse that somebody has used that story to help others. And I think too, like for me, as I've heard people's story, or people have said, hey, like that really resonated with me, like you sharing that, like that changed, that kind of shows you that there is always beauty in that brokenness, and something good can come out of it. It's what you want. Do you want evil and just negative to continue to come out of that? Or do you want to make it where something good can come out of it? And that's where you hear so many people helping in veterans, or just any capacity of a lot of nonprofits, you know, homelessness. Hey, I was there.
That's right.
I want to help somebody not be there. And that's where the power comes from, is taking that story and that brokenness and helping someone else through it. Because I guarantee you there's someone else that's feeling that way. And I hope to, for myself, or have other people share their stories, that it helps the next person. And the more we are open in that community and share, the more good that will come out. And for me, I don't want to let the devil win.
That's right.
I'll fight till my last days to say, you know what? You thought you won with that evil and that darkness? No. And that's where the light comes in. And that's John 1:5, which was one of the foundational verses for the Light Ranch, is that we've overcome the darkness, right? That's the root of that verse, is we're not going to let the darkness win. And so I think that's what people need to see, is you're going to let that light win. And for me, it's critical, like in my faith. And I think, you know, if you are feeling that way, start looking in the truth of what God's saying about you and who you are. And I think once you start tearing away that, you'll start to see the truth. But I also feel like you can't do it alone.
Exactly. The piece of you saying community is so vital is so true. And it's something I tell a lot of people in my life. But yeah, I think if you try to fight it alone by yourself, it's like it's not a matter of when but if, or sorry, if but when.
Yeah.
It's gonna, at some point, there's a lot of different verses on that.
Yeah. And it might be just your therapist, right? That might be your community to start, you know, wherever you feel safe. You know, and it could be church, it could be a support group. There's, you can find, I mean, that's one thing that is good these days, is so much is at our fingertips. It's whether you want to search for it. And there's a fine balance on social too, right? Sharing your story and being seen as a victim, or crying, or, you know, like you want to have some authenticity, you want to share that. But you also, like for me, I want my page to be a light, but also have those real pieces in there that, hey, this is part of my story, but we're going to find the joy in every day. And because if you want to just be dark and focus on that, yes, that'll happen. But if you focus on the light, a lot will change for you.
Such a good answer. Great advice. And I think, Romans 8:28 is huge on that too, which we've talked about. And that is that God is promising that he'll use every single bit of your story, the good and the bad, the ugly, the fun, whatever parts of your story for your good and his glory. And I think that's also encouraging to remember, like nothing is wasted.
Right.
And the days that I've had a hard time getting out of bed for shame, different seasons of life, just feeling like I couldn't face tomorrow, that's the verse that got me out of bed, is that God's not going to waste this. There's a purpose in this pain. He's going to use it all. And maybe it's to help other people down the line, like your story you shared and your purpose that you're walking in. So okay. So if someone is listening right now that's feeling called to do something bold, like you've done, but they're scared, what would you say to them?
You're going to always be scared. There is always fear and there's always doubt, but it's learning and figuring out how to push through that fear. And I think the biggest thing to remind them is, like, every small step makes a difference. It doesn't have to be a huge step. Like when you're talking about Christine Kane, I was thinking while you were talking about that, what we were listening to earlier, they all started somewhere. Christine runs, I mean, she's an exceptional author, speaker, and she runs A21 that is fighting trafficking globally. Like, she's got an incredible organization. But that didn't just happen overnight. And so I think we get stuck on that we need to be at this end result. I get stuck on it too. I'm like, I'm not where I want to be, but there is a process to all of it, right? And every fear, every difficult time, every waiting period is growing you. No, any business, they did not start granted, there's probably a few these days that had some overnight success or some things
there's
like
always
that.
Yeah.
But that percentage has to be exceptionally small. It all started with grit and putting in that work, and one step at a time. And those moments where you're ready to give up and fall into that fear, that is the exact moment you have to keep pushing through and say, like, I'm not. There's been so many times over the last 6 months that I've been like, all right, I don't know that I have it. I don't know that this is going to get anywhere.
You take like a step forward and you take a few back.
Oh, yeah.
And you're like, okay, what's happening? But I think what you're saying too is you're being faithful in the small.
Yes.
And that makes the big difference, because if you're faithful with little, God's going to bless you with more. And so I think, those small moments, we didn't see Christine Kane on her face praying. We didn't see her having those moments with God. We didn't see the struggle that she maybe had with her marriage or whatever. I don't know her story all that well, but those small moments with her walk with God that no one's seeing, they're just seeing the end result, like you said. I think it's really important to remember that there is a lot of struggle in the process too.
There is, and I think one thing that catches us up a lot, it's in relationships and everything, is we look back, right? We look at the past, we hang on to that past, we can't let it go. There's something about holding on to, why did it go this way?
Replaying it
over and over. I've fallen into that trap so many times in my life. And Christine has if you listen to her story, which is a crazy story, but she talks about Lot's wife and how she was told, do not look back. And then she turned into a pillar of salt. That is something I do. It's ingrained in me right now. And I'm trying so hard to let the past go, and we are looking forward. We are continuing to look forward. And like I said, I can see the end result, and that's where I start to struggle, is because I'm like, I don't know what do I do next? And so I'm really in this place where I'm like, okay, I'm just trying to chip away and keep making every little step forward and saying, okay, it's in your hands, God. Like, I'm surrendering. And I have had those moments of fear, and those are the moments where I'm like, I got to get on my knees and pray and show me. I have asked him more times than he probably likes to say, show me that I'm on the right path. And then something will happen. I'm like, okay, I hear you.
Yes, I am.
Yes,
I'm doing it okay.
Yeah. I'm like, okay. And then I still will do it. And I'm like, I'm sorry. Like, here I am doubting you again. And then he'll show me again.
Just one more question, Lord.
Yeah, like it is. It's happened so many times. I've been in the car in full tears, like, am I on the right path? Am I doing, like, is this really what you're calling me to do? Because this feels way bigger than me. And I mean, it happened right before I got my 501c3 became official. I was crying. I don't remember where I was coming from, but I was crying in the car, praying out loud. I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, are you sure? Like, I have put this out in the world for social media. Like, and that's even worse. Like, it's one thing to do things in private, but then when you start putting it out publicly,
scary.
It is scary, because then you're like, oh, she's not anywhere. Like, this is what I'm telling myself. She hasn't done enough yet. She hasn't done this. So I'm crying, and I'm like, I need you to tell me, God, that this is the right thing. And I got home, and there was a letter sitting on the entryway table, and I opened it, and it was my 501c3, and it was way faster than expected. And it was you've been approved. And I was like, okay, I hear you. Okay, I got you.
Here we go.
And we will continue to do that. But, you have those moments with fear and everything, but you just have to push through.
That's so good.
It's so hard, though, too.
So hard. It's much easier said than done, or giving advice to someone else. When you were talking, I was reminded of, like, one time I felt like I was praying and God gave me this cool visual of something that you were saying you do, and I 100% do. And maybe it's because it was either during or after hunting season, but it was like us kind of walking through the mountains on this path, and it was pretty dark, and I like was trying to see over the next ridge, over the next wherever, to see where we were going. And I had like a spotting scope out or something, binoculars or something, and literally I felt like the Lord is so gentle, and he just like kind of brushed it away like, hey, don't you trust me? Like, I know where we're going, just grab my hand. You don't need that anymore. Like, you don't need to see what's next. And like, plus you can't see that far anyways. Like, yeah, and I feel like sometimes we do, like, we try to get our headlamps on and like see exactly everything and look ahead with spotting scope or binoculars, and it's almost like we say we trust God, but we still want to know. In our humanness, we're like, yeah, I trust you, yeah, like, I'll walk with you, I'll follow you, but like, can I just see? And in his grace, he, pushes it away like, you don't need that, because I created what's next, and I know what's next, and you can just grab my hand and trust me, and let's go, and let's enjoy this where we are right now. Like, look around you, see what's around you, like, look what I'm teaching you in this moment, and don't miss it because you're looking ahead so much or striving to see what's next. And yeah, when our eyes are I've never had this happen, but I'm sure a lot of hunters, if they're like, glassing and they look 20 yards over is a giant bull, like, that happens. And I feel like that's what happens when we are trying so eagerly to see what's next instead of just enjoying where we are in this moment, what's around us, conversating with the Lord, being silly, goofy with him, hanging out with him like he's our best friend, because he is. We're missing out on those moments because we're so anxious to know what's next. And yeah, I think we all fall prey to that. It's not just you, Heidi. It's not just you, sister.
That's good to know. But I think there's truth in that too, that sometimes he'll be like, yeah, you had that opportunity right in front of you. And you were so busy looking at this or not paying attention to what's around you that you missed what was right in front of you. And those are where, so I call them maybe God nudges. Like, there's been a ton of things where I have gotten a nudge to text a random person that I don't even know, or send them a message, hey, I'm praying for you, or I'm thinking of you. And there have been opportunities where things have opened up for me based on listening to those, but I know there's been ones that I've ignored, and sometimes I'm like, wow, was I fully present in what's around me to be able to take the opportunities that he is maybe sending me that I'm just flat out ignoring or not taking advantage of? So I'm trying to live very intentionally with what comes into my day in and day out, that, hey, take this opportunity, it's here, say yes. And that's why I'm like, something comes up, I need to say yes, because I don't know what he's trying to do with it. And it may not come out as to what maybe I would have thought would come out of it.
Sure.
But I don't know what he's doing on the other side. And sometimes too, and that's why, like, networking and just talking to people, I enjoy that, because you may have a meeting that 5 years down the road,
absolutely,
something comes from that connection with someone.
Yes.
I was just talking to somebody, my dear friend Nicole, and she had this realization about something that happened like 20 years ago.
Wow. And
what we are doing right now with the Bible study that we're doing. And it kind of hit, and I'm like, it may not be a day. Oh no,
typically it isn't.
No, unfortunately.
Sometimes it is.
I wish it was more often.
No, yeah, my God dream was that he's fulfilling this year. It's been 14 years.
It was the same year that we talked about that.
Yeah, that you were starting to volunteer in Arizona.
And trafficking came across my plate.
Yeah, that's the first time I funny enough, it was Christine Kane speaking at the Passion Conference. First time I'd ever seen her, heard her, in the first year that they decided to dedicate all of the giving from college students to the End It movement to end human trafficking. That God spoke to me very directly for the very first time about going to a certain country for this. And the number 14 was inside of it, which is my favorite number. And I didn't understand why. And then I got home and I researched this country's statistics for human trafficking, and they said that this country had 14 million slaves. And so I thought at the time, like, that's why that 14 was in the middle. And then once I got the yes, and it started progressing that I was going to go this year in 2025, I did the math, and I was like, how long has it been since that dream was placed so heavy on my heart? And I was like, 14 years. Okay. Okay, God. Like, you're so cool. And what's really sweet about that is I never tried to force a trip in the past. Like, I'd gotten a lot of opportunities kind of placed, but they never had that deep piece of like, it's now your time. And I probably could have gone between now and then, but knowing what I know now in my life, and after I've walked through some of the hardest things I've ever been through, I guess 100% of the hardest things I've ever been through, I'm really grateful that it's now, because I feel like I'm in a much different place with my walk with God, and we have so much history and depth to our relationship that I think going now is much better than going before. I don't know. So I'm thankful he made me wait 14 years.
Well, there is. I think he's shown me just in this last year, just in the last 6 months, that as I may feel prepared to do whatever it is at the end, right? Whatever you might feel your purpose or something you want to do, is he's been uncovering things that I still need some work on. And then I'll realize I need to work on that. I'm not ready yet for that. And so I think sometimes those waiting, we tend to be like, you know, why? You know, and we put it on him, but I'm starting to realize, like, okay, I mean, I'll never be perfect, right? And I'll always have those imperfections and things, but my awareness to the spiritual warfare and the things that come tackling me and come at me, I'm recognizing them in a whole different capacity than I used a year ago that I wouldn't. And so I'm really, as those things come up, trying to dig into, how do I take control of this? How do I, you know, cover this and turn to him as opposed to trying to find, I'm a huge planner. Waiting and surrendering what I thought I was doing, not even close, because I am such a planner. And as a single mom, like I mean, you've got to have your ducks in a row, right? Or, you know, the house is going to fall apart, or the kids aren't going to get to where they need to. So, like, surrendering and not having control of something, not that I'm super controlling, but like, I've realized that is a area that for him, I need to be like, okay, you're in charge. I'm going to trust you. And I thought I did that so well, and I've learned this last year that I really needed to work on that. Yeah. And I still am. It's in his, like, infinite grace that he's patient with us and, like, makes us wait. So patient. So he's gracious to do that instead of letting whatever our calling is break our backs underneath the weight because it's too heavy for where we're at. We're not strong enough yet. He hasn't built up that muscle endurance. And yeah, I think that's really, really wise. He's so gracious to make us wait. So I think we are maybe wrapping up, which is sad, but I always end with the same question. Yes. And the question that I am ending with is, if you could go back and look yourself in the eyes at any given age and tell yourself one thing that you know now, what would it be? Oh, it's always a tough question for me, you know, when I think about those things. But I think for me, it'd probably be maybe 15, like beginning of high school age, right? I feel like there was still like this innocence, like through elementary school, and like you don't care as much what people think. Like you're just having a good time. Like I look at children, I love the innocence of children. When I watch children play, and when my boys were little, and like they just don't care, right? They just go up, make friends, like, hey, you want to play? Like, you want to hang out? And they're not like, hey, are they going to accept me? Do they like what I'm wearing? Do I look okay? Like, none of that thought crosses their mind. And I feel like in high school, that's where things start to shift a little bit. And I feel like for me, that's where the apprehension and you worry more about what people think and you miss out on opportunities. Yeah. And you stop having a little bit more, I mean, you still have fun, but taking those chances and those risks, you start to inhibit. I'm always very curious in our lives where we start being more fearful. And I think in that moment, at that age, I would be like, just say yes, go for it. Like, you're gonna mess up, you're gonna fail, but just say yes, take the chances, and don't be afraid. Because no matter what, God's got you, and it's going to work out. And if I could do anything different, it would probably be just embracing life a little bit more and not worrying about people and all the negative and how you look, and just see the world through the eyes of a child.
Beautiful. That's so good. Thank you for driving all the way from Idaho for this. Thank you for being
Anytime.
with me this weekend, and for being such a faithful friend who encourages me, prays for me, tells the truth. And you can find all of Heidi's different Instagram tags for Encounter Outdoors in the Light Ranch in the description. I'll put that in there. And there's also a summit coming up that I wanted to mention for the Light Ranch for women. I'll be there. And if you guys are interested in that, I think by the time this airs, there'll still be a little bit of time to sign up. There are only a couple of spots left, but I did want to put that out there, and you can see the details on the Light Ranch. Is it lightranch.com?
It's encounter-outdoor.com.
Perfect.
It's all encompassed in one.
Perfect. Yeah, or the Light Ranch Instagram handle.
Yep.
So yeah, thank you
Thank you.
so much.
Appreciate you so much.